Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 2, where we are exploring our galactic origins and becoming multidimensional. I'm your host, Washela Sananda, and today it is my pleasure to introduce you to Tomorrow. Welcome, Tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shayla, for having me.
I'm so happy that we get to do this. So before we begin, I will read a little bit about you so everyone has kind of some background about who you are in the world.
Perfect.
Heidi Sime, aka Tomorrow, knows terrestrial life through art, sculpture, biohacking, experimenting, meditating, celebrating, welding, metalworking, drawing, painting, primal living, loving, exploring, hiking, and parenting. She is all the essential things that make up a woman too young for her age and too old for her snappy outfits. Well, I disagree. You can wear whatever you want. She was born under a Cancer moon and hot Polish gypsy blood. She has experimented with all that life has to offer, both deviant and holistic. She was biohacking in the 1990s before biohacking was coined in 2010. As a mother of 4 children and 2 stepsons, she is devoted to parenting and creating good humans. She is eternally a promoter of emotional intelligence and well-being and a seeker of higher spiritual truths.
Amen. That's why we're here.
I love it. I love it. You know, your creativity really shows in that. It's been interesting getting to know you, the dimensions of Tomorrow. Because when I first met you, it was at the biohacking retreat. I was a presenter among many others there last February. And, I only knew you as a part of Primal Hacker then. And then I got to know you as, that you're a coach and an artist and a mom and a yoga teacher and, all of these other things and this very deep spiritual part of you as well. So, you truly are a multidimensional human. And I just love that about you. So I would love to kind of begin with your origin story. For most people, I say, where did you begin X, Y, or Z? But you've started so many things. So maybe what prompted you to have such a unique path in life? Maybe just start there.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm such an honor. I feel so humbled by this interview and being, interviewed by you. So my origin story, I have 2 parents that are very fiery, and they are 2 of like the strangest, but amazing people I know. And growing up in their household was very interesting. My mother is a fellow Sagittarian, and she and I both attract so many other Saggies into our world. So I grew up with her and all that she wanted to experience and all that she wanted to experiment with, right? We would always be out in nature. I don't remember being indoors as a child, like at all. I was outside. I'm serious, like in the winter, in the spring, summer, fall, we were always outside and always doing fun stuff. And my dad, he's like, I don't even know like how to explain him. He's kind of this enigma guy. And he's, we all have our dark and light sides, right? But he is a questioner of authority, and he really gets me to argue with him and like all the things that parents do. And so early on I could kind of see that my parents weren't like most parents. I'll give you one quick instance. We would be driving to a hockey game. My brother played hockey, so we do live in the northern US in Wisconsin, and we would be driving to a hockey game in the middle of a blizzard in my parents' Suburban, and my dad would just tear off the road and we would drive down into the ditch, and we would like jump over driveways, like in the ditch. What? And we would be in the back, no seatbelts, you know, whatever. This is in the late 90s or early 90s. Sorry. And I mean, we would just be like flying all over the car. And that was just like one, you know, one little thing. And I like reflect on that. I'm like, Jesus criminy. Like, I can't believe he would do that. So they're like super excited. We'd always be like outdoors, you know, snowmobiling, cross country skiing, traveling. And so like really my, you know, my early childhood, my middle, late childhood, they're all these adventures that my parents would take us on. I mean, Norway, Sweden, we traveled a lot. We did a lot of really cool stuff. One time we were out in Yellowstone, and this was before there was like a lot of like security, like kind of maybe in the park. And we're like dipping our toes in the geysers and like taking a break. Like, oh my God. To do that today would be pretty bad. So so always pushing boundaries, right? And it was really an interesting childhood, and all my friends always wanted to be at our house. We had the action. We were always on the river and doing, you know, really fun stuff. So, you know, move ahead a little bit. I did go to college for 1 year, and I was away from home, and it was a very strange reality for me. I was actually part of a sorority, which was like the minute I got in there, I always had this internal, you know, sensory of like, hold on, there's something's not right here, right? And so I was like, oh, we're gonna do charity in the world. We're gonna do like some good stuff. And it ended up being like strippers coming to parties and everybody getting drunk and puking. I was like, I did not sign up for this. This is in no way, shape, or form what I thought it was going to be. I ended up getting kicked out, and I was like glad. You know, I was like, F you to all you. It was bad. But I just knew like that was not what my, you know, my internal self was saying. Oh my God, like, you know, before I was really conscious of my spiritual guidance system, right? And then I came back to my hometown because I was so not happy with, there was a lot of racism actually. I was in Missouri, and I was like, this is just not like, I'm from the North, and like, that's just not how we do stuff. And I couldn't really deal with some of the things that were happening inside me as well. So I came back, and I started down a path that wasn't probably so desirable. And, you know, like there was a lot of experimentation happening. I was doing some pretty stupid stuff, as we probably all, you know, do in our early 20s, late teens. And I got pregnant when I was 21. And that really, you know, stopped me in my tracks, right? Like I was constantly on the go. I'm Sagittarian. I am nomadic by nature, and I was never home. Home a couple times, you know, to reset, but then gone again. And there's actually a painting by one of my favorite artists. He's a Japanese artist. His name is Yoshitomo Nara, and it's this painting of this little girl, and she's got these like kind of elongated arms. And in each of her hands, there's a nail, and they're like driven into the floor. It's a little disturbing, actually. And she's wearing this like really pretty pink dress, and she's got kind of this, you know, weird face. And both of her hands are nailed to the floor. And I was like, oh my God, like that's how I felt like being pregnant and having a kid. I was not prepared at all. And it was a very scary, I don't know, reality for me. I was in a really disturbing relationship with my son's father, and I grew up really fast, let's just say. So I continued my college education. I got my undergraduate degree from a local college. Actually got a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, and then I went on to get my Master of Fine Arts degree in ecological architecture, which is a little funky college that I went to called Vesper College, and that was in Minneapolis. So that reality of like going through my schooling with a child, I was a nanny at the time, so I could make some money, and bring, my son's name is Aries. My oldest son is Aries, Ariez. And I would bring Aries with me wherever I went. And yeah, so I mean, that's kind of like how things started, erupting for me. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I know that as time went on, parenting has become a very crucial part of who you are and what you're about. And you talked to me about, how deeply important emotional intelligence is to you. And so you have gentlemen's school with your kids.
Absolutely.
And I definitely want to hear about that. And I know that you have become a very devoted parent and you've had more children. And I just love to hear, and I know you're homeschooling now as well. So
Right.
let's kind of dive into what is emotional intelligence and how do you parent to have your kids turn out so differently than maybe what the norm would be?
For sure. So I'll just kind of pick up where I left off. So at 21, here I am with a baby, and I didn't really know what to do. I was the youngest of two children growing up, so I was really never around um, younger children. And if I were around younger children, I'd be like, oh, like, no, I don't, you guys are boring. I want to go be with the adults. I want to go hang out where the action is. I always want to be where the action is. That's, course, that's what Sagittarians do. And so I was like, and I didn't have like this conscious thought about it. It just kind of happened because of my personality with how I feel about children. I was like, this kid that I'm toting around now better be cool and better be fun to be around. Oh my, and like this kind of light bulb just went off in my head, and I was like, this kid better be fun and be cool to be around, or I am not going to want to be around him. And then, as a mother, like you don't say that about your kid, right? But you know what? For me, actually, blood is not thicker than water, and I was very like serious about that inside. Like, no, this kid better be cool, because I love him and I have this deep connection to him, and he's going to have to go with me in public, and he's going to be everywhere. And he did. He was so fun. He's married now, and he's like on his own, and he's so fiercely independent. And it's what's one thing that's really cool about him is his name is Aries, and he's a triple Taurus. Oh my gosh, he's like the most stubborn human on the planet, but he's so intellectual. And you know what? He's such a good husband. I'm so proud of him in so many ways. So I'm gonna get all teary. But I knew that, having this little dude with me, it's gonna be this way, or this could go bad. And so I got myself out of this kind of bad relationship, and I was going to school. I was started seeing somebody else, and my little dude was like, he was fun to be around, and we were hanging out with my parents a lot and their friends, and everybody thought he was just like the life of the party, and he was just like really interesting and really fun to be. He could talk to adults at 3. And I knew, like, I could kind of see something was working with him when he could have a conversation with some of my parents' friends at that young of an age. And I was like, oh, this is actually working. So emotional intelligence is knowing your surroundings, and awakening to where is my place in this world, and how do I and communication is like the key, right? As in any relationship, any coach, any therapist will say communication is probably number one. So having that emotional intelligence piece, and so the thing I call that too is soft skills. And you're not taught that in school. You're taught by default, maybe, like how to win friends and influence people. That's one of the main books that I learned from. It's such a cheesy, weird title, but how to win friends and influence people is absolutely like crucial to how we move through life, right? How am I able to speak to you right now? How do I speak to my husband? How do I speak to my dog or my kid? Or how do kids speak to adults? And having the next step of, okay, we can communicate, but now can I read you? Can I sense you? How does your energy feel? How do I articulate things? How does my emotional, well-being affect you if you come in the room, right? So having some of these soft skills and really paying attention to talking about this stuff, right? And a lot of times, myself, I come from a very, Scandinavian background, and a lot of times things get swept under the rug and we don't talk about that. And I saw what that did to my family. So there's some of the dark side of my origin story and my upbringing. We don't talk about that stuff. We go out and we have fun, but we don't talk about the hard stuff, because if we don't talk about it, it will just go away. No, that's not how it happens. It'll just bubble up and become uglier and uglier. So I actually went on to have 3 more children. And so now I find myself with 4, which is like, oh my God, I have 4 children. How did this happen? But every single one of them are so interesting and so unique that, I can't imagine my life without them. But it's so funny to think that when I was younger, my mantra with Shayla was that I'm never having kids. I'm just gonna like go to Italy and hang out and hang out in the Mediterranean. So now, 4 children, and, fast forward a little bit more, now I've got 2 more stepsons. So let's up the ante a little bit. And now we have 6 children, and I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of people around me, which is fantastic. I love that. But I also so I got remarried and then divorced again in 2008? So I find myself single mom. Now I've got 4 children, and the oldest one is like, he's pretty independent. As a triple Taurus, you could probably imagine. Your audience probably knows what that means. Am I correct in saying that?
I'm sure many do have
Okay.
astrological background.
Okay. So he's pretty independent. So I have these like 3 little ones, because there's like a 6-year gap in between. And I was like, oh my God, like all these people better be cool, because now I have to go and take all these people with me, and they're going to be in public. And, we live downtown, in a small, it's not too small, it's a small town. It's basically a suburb of Minneapolis. But it's a quiet little town, and my family has been here. We have roots here for 45 years. My parents have a business in town. And so a lot of people know me and they know my family. And we'll just be out walking around and be like, oh, I know you, da, da, da. So it kind of feels really small sometimes. But I wanted to make sure that my kids, when they left my house and they went to school and they went downtown, or they went wherever they go, someone else's house, friend's house, right? That they have really good manners, that they're super respectful, that they're able to talk to adults and communicate properly, and that they just have some common sense, right? Like that piece too. And so often some of those softer things get overlooked because of intelligence, or because of how well you can do on tests, and like that kind of stuff. And I never, like, my internal radar was like, I always rejected that kind of stuff, just because I knew that being a mom, like, your kid is totally different than every other kid. We're all different, obviously, but no 2 kids are alike. And parenting is like, it's navigating each kid and the soft skills you need as a parent to even, I don't know, to keep things peaceful in a home. I had 3 boys, and then my youngest is a girl. And let me tell you, like, all those males in this house, it's something. It was, and it still is. And now the 2 stepsons are both males. So there is so much yang energy in our home, that in order to keep peace and to keep my brain from like freaking out and like running away, I had to do something. So I made up my own thing, and I call it Gentleman School. So do you want me to keep talking about that?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Okay.
I mean, just like maybe in a nutshell, a little bit about
Yeah.
Gentleman's School. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So gentleman school just means that, and again, I made this up. I'm a creative, an artist. And so like, I make up shit all the time. um, but my oldest was in my first gentleman school, and it really is like every time we walk through the door, he, I mean, we could go down the feminism thing, but this is just me and my family and how I feel like respected in the world, right? So I would ask him, "Would you please hold the door open for me?" And he started making a habit of that. And I was like, "Oh, like this is kind of nice." And then some more light bulbs started going off when he was younger, and I was like, "Wait a minute, I get to kind of mold this little person into a better human and a better man. And then he's going to be a really good man someday. He's going to be a really good husband someday. He's going to be, like all these things." And all these things started just like triggering. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to work on that as many times as we can and as often as we can. So it was just like, it's a daily thing. If I see something, I will stop what we're doing. If it's a big thing, we'll back up and we'll take a couple steps back and we'll go, nope, we're going to redo this situation because what just happened was rude and inappropriate. We call it inappropriato. But right. And so there's all these things that I just started doing. And this was before I read The Awakened Family and the spiritual laws, Deepak Chopra's spiritual laws, so I just started doing these things innately, probably preparing myself for all the children to come. Right. So then, two more boys come along and I'm like, whoa, these people need gentleman school too. So I just started getting really good at it. And like, I'm the puppet master of distraction. I can distract just about any kid, unless there's like a learning disability or something, that is cognitively distressing. I can be like so good at distracting whatever is, disturbing them at the time. Just from being home with them. And I was able to be home with my 3 little ones for 7 years. Wow. So that is like super, I was so grateful that I got that time, with them. I was able to stay home and breastfeed all of them and really just nurture them. And I think that's another thing that we, in this culture, it's pretty rare to come by parents that actually get to be around, and our culture doesn't, we don't nurture that. Scandinavian countries nurture that much better than we do. That research I've done, the Danish in particular. They're really good at that.
I'm half Danish, and
Really?
I had my babies at home, both of them, in a pool of water in my living room, and nursed and all that. So, and with a midwife, yeah, I loved doing it that way.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a book, it's called The Danish Way of Parenting. And it talks about the, that HYGGE, hygge, that term. Are you familiar with that term?
Yeah.
So it started getting really popular, and you see it on pillows and stuff.
Yeah.
But it actually is a really old idea. And I have had some, really intense, like political and disruption in my core family on some of the things that we talk about. And in the Danish Way of Parenting, it says, like, you talk about things that are warm and cozy with your family. Mm-hmm. You don't bring politics into it. You don't go there. Like, you don't need to. It's nothing. It's just going to cause disruption. And after I read that, I was like, oh my God, no wonder every time we talked about something political, and I'm not even like I'm not a political person. Like, I don't really do that. And my family is very strongly political. I would get this internal like yuck feeling, and it was just every ounce of my body was just like rejecting this. I don't want that, and I don't want to go there with you. That's not really what family is about. It's not about politics, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I read The Danish Way of Parenting, it really talked about that and how to cultivate a different ambiance in your own family. So mm-hmm. I really push for that. So I take all the things that I learned and I implement them into, me and my core family with my children. And we don't talk about that. We talk about things that are emotional intelligent, right? We talk about self-esteem. We talk about how do you address conflict and just soft skills. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. I know that's a huge part of who you are in the world. I'd love to see you release or, make it available, your gentleman's course online so that people could send their boys because the world
Right.
needs that. It's kind of like, throwback to maybe the 1940s or 50s, when they were still getting that chivalry
Right.
training.
Right.
I think a lot of that went away with the feminist movement. However, some of that needs to stay because it's not about, male dominance. It's
No.
about respect. It's about showing, thoughtfulness and caring and respectfulness and love. So
Right.
I think it could be modernized and then
Sure.
presented. I want to see your course, Gentlemen's Training, Building Better Boys or
Well,
something.
I'll tell you what, it would be for the parents, not for the children, right? Like that
Mm-hmm.
to me. So like when I see things, when I see people in different areas, I'm like, I can instantly tell, nope, that's parenting right there, right? Like that is not that little child's deal. That is what's happening over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will, let me give you one quick example of my children when they're out, like out and about in our town. I had a local businesswoman come up to me, and she owns like this super like hippie store downtown. And so her older son, who's 17, works there. And this was like a couple years ago. So my kids must have been, let's see, they're 16 and 17. So they're probably like, 13, 14. She comes up to me and she was like, Heidi, she's like, I have to tell you this. And I was like, what? And this happens to me all the time, which is like, I'm always amazed by it. I still am like humbled and eternally amazed by it. She's like, my son, okay, I'll back up. Your kids came into the store today and my son was working. And I was like, okay. And she's like, and he came home and he said that he met two of the most amazing kids today. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, oh, that's cool. She's like, no, it doesn't end here. She goes, he actually said, as a 17-year-old male, he goes, I actually want to be a better person because I saw how these kids acted today and they were so nice and they were so respectful around others. They held the door for this woman. They were so polite when they were checking out. And he's like, it actually made me want to be a better person. I was like,
Wow, that's powerful.
and I was like, what? My boys, like they were just fist fighting in the backyard.
Still boys, right?
Right. Oh my God. So I was just like, oh, that was really powerful.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Right.
Well, good job, Mama. Yeah,
Oh,
keep that up and, think about sharing more of that. I know you do coach and you take clients, maybe not specifically in that area, but maybe we'll hear more about that coming from you because I think it's very needed in the world. And parents, it's really not the parents' fault. We aren't trained that in this culture.
Exactly.
And it's a lost art, the art of parenting, I think, and the art of raising gentlemen.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
Can I just give you one really quick thing? So Shefali Talsbury wrote The Awakened Family. Mm-hmm. And so if anybody wants resources, that book I highly recommend. The very first book I ever read about parenting was Deepak Chopra's Seven Spiritual Laws of Children. And I wrote them down, so I'm looking over here. And then The Danish Way of Parenting. And then lastly, The 5 Love Languages for Kids. Most people think that there's only the 5 love languages for the couples. He actually wrote, and Chapman is the author with that one. Sometimes he has funny examples, but he wrote one for kids and one for teens. And if you read the one for kids and you start implementing those 5, your children will be well versed in all 5 love languages. And normally when he talks about it with adults, we really have 1 or 2 that are dominant. I raised all my children to have and be well-rounded in all 5 of them. So, wow. Right? I mean, so that's really powerful. Those 5 books or 4 books are really powerful.
Awesome. Thank you for that resource.
Yeah, sure.
That's helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like envisioning you on parenting summits in the future.
Oh, nice.
There are lots of those out there. So yes, you
Well,
need to share.
and most of it's through experience, right? And
Yes.
and you know what, Shayla, that's a really good point. One of the main things about parenting is that if you can put on a different lens when you're dealing with your children, and I mean, I don't do this all the time, but when I remember, and this is all the spiritual teaching that I bring into parenting too, right? I look at my 17-year-old son who has been like the at times the bane of my existence, right? Like, oh my God, I had no idea it could be this difficult ever as a parent. And I can look at him through a lens and go, what do I need to learn about myself? What is he showing me? This kid is my greatest Zen teacher of all time. So, kind of flipping that around and going, wait a minute, why is my kid mirroring this? What's happening with my energy? And so it really, parenting is a self-reflection. Oh, I think there's a book title there.
Yeah, for sure. I love that for sure.
Very good.
So, and I know that your kids are spiritual as well, which I really love.
Yes.
And that's a powerful part of what you offer. They meditate. I imagine you probably do yoga with them.
Which we try.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I just love all of that. So thank you for sharing. And I kind of want to divert now
Yep.
and step into biohacking.
Yeah.
So, because I know that's a huge part of your life as well. And we did have your partner, Thaddeus, on the first summit, and he talked kind of about biohacking 101 and some of the things that you can do. And the two of you together have Primal Hacker.
Yep.
And Primal Hacker, you have so many, just a wealth of resources and information there. So we'll make sure to link that so everyone can go check it out.
For
But
sure.
also, and videos and all of that. I'd love for you to share kind of, your unique take on, because I know that you and Thaddeus are really bringing spirituality into biohacking. And I didn't know biohacking really much at all before I knew you. I kind of learned it just more recently, but I love that you're doing that. And so I'd like to kind of hear your take on what is biohacking, maybe in a nutshell, and then how you're bringing spirituality in to balance that.
For sure. So biohacking, living with Thaddeus, first of all, like in a biohacked house with a biohacker, that was very much a learning curve for me as well. But I mean, I always tease him. I'm like, I have to be so go with the flow because he's very like, he's got to have this, and this. And so for me, it's just been like every day I learn something new from him. And so it's a whole new, experience just about every day around here. So biohacking, that word can be a little coiny sometimes that I don't prefer. But basically, looking at your environment, your light environment, your EMF environment, things that a lot of people aren't thinking about right now. Most people concentrate on movement and your diet, right? And there's so many variations of those things in itself, but moving that into, wait a minute, am I grounding? Am I getting sunlight? Am I putting my cell phone in my pocket? Your indoor light environment. So we talk a ton about that kind of stuff. So biohacking is really taking your modern life and optimizing your environment to create a much more peaceful, grounded, harmonious place to inhabit, right? And for me, I spend a lot of time in the home with the children, obviously. I'm so grateful. I mean, a lot of people are like, how can you like kind of deal with all the crazy around you? And I'm like, I welcome it. I'm so thankful for Thaddeus. Let me just give you one quick example. We hard connect. I don't know if you can see this, but we hard connect. My computer right now is hard connected. We don't do any Wi-Fi. And there are so many cords around my house. Most people would be like, no, this isn't going to happen. Like, this is crazy town. There are cords and long cords. So we can take computers outside if we need to. He'll put one through the hole in the screen in the window. I'm like, okay. And sometimes I'll get very frustrated because even our cell phones, we hard connect. So we have an adapter that we hard connect because we really try to teach people about, the dangers of cell phones. And there's a bunny hole in itself. Go to primalhacker.com to learn more about that. But I like every day I connect my phone. I have to go look for my phone connector, and somebody has it, in another room, and there's so many people here, and I'm super frustrated. And then I take one more breath. This is for my health. Right. And I remember, like, you know what? I'm so thankful that Thaddeus is so well researched in all of this stuff. And, this is how we live. This is a lifestyle. And we really reject all of the things that we're like kind of told to do, right? So we do the opposite of what the media and what most people do. So like, hey, do you want faster Wi-Fi? No, I want a hard connect. It's actually faster. So there's all these hacks. So when we talk about the word biohacking, we are literally finding the easiest way to create an environment or to hack something. And it's not a detrimental thing. It's always, to promote health and longevity. So that's, the biohacking piece really is about longevity. And you can go as far as going, like if you live in an inner city and you are surrounded by 5G and there's, lots of places that you can't be without Wi-Fi, how do you navigate that, and how are you able to ground and live in that environment? Or if you're way out in the country and you've got a huge power line over you, like how do you mitigate that? So just knowing how things in your environment can affect you and what to do about it, like that really is the hacking part, right? So just because you live in the country doesn't mean you're in a safe zone. It's really knowing what's around you and paying attention to what's going on. Does that answer the question about biohacking enough?
Yeah. At least that's kind of the, the frequency or the, like the radio and frequency and Wi-Fi type aspect of it. And then I know there's also physical biohacking. Thaddeus talked a lot about the eyes, and, you have the glasses that are blue blockers. You want to talk about those? And
yeah. So these are the blue blocking glasses. And before sunrise every night, every morning. So in the wintertime, we wear these a lot more. So, the blue light in the eye it's a sensor, and Thaddeus, you can look up Thaddeus's talks about this because he did like the TED talk on this. So I am not going to go there, but that's the nighttime glasses. And then we also have the daytime glasses. I don't know if you can see, there's just like a little yellow tint to this. So these are computer glasses. And really, they're a tool that we use, and we use it with our children too. We're teaching our children about our light environment. So too often, like one of my kids will come to me and they'll say, "Mom, I didn't sleep last night." And I'm like, my first question is, were you up on your technology all night? Right? And they're like, well, only till 10 o'clock. And then I put on a Washayla meditation, or, I don't know, a meditation. And I'm like, well, you might want to ditch the device a little earlier because, your eyes are clocks and you're reading light. And, if you didn't have your blue blockers on, like, good luck. You destroyed all your melatonin for the night. So, and you can't make up sleep. Like there's so many things that I've learned just living with Thaddeus in a biohacked house that I'm like, oh my God, if I didn't know this, like my sleep would just be so crazy right now. I'm almost at a pretty constant 2 hours of deep sleep every night, which is pretty good for a woman my age. And we measure that with the little Aura ring. I don't know if you can see this. So that measures your sleep, and it can go on airplane mode. That's why it's Thaddeus approved. He just walked in the room.
And I understand it's not, some of the watches are Wi-Fi and connected, maybe something that people wouldn't want to wear on their bodies.
Right.
How is this, you want to share, how is this ring different from that?
Oh, sure. So you can program it on your phone to go into airplane mode. And the light on it is a red light, or is it infrared? I don't know. He knows all that techie stuff. I wear it. And I track my sleep. But it's in airplane mode right now. So when I put it on the little cradle thing, it will collect all the information, and I'll look at my information. I'll look at the last day or two of my sleep, and then it'll say my readiness score. So they're about $300 to $400. And one of the first gifts he gave me. First gift was a pair of Swanwick blue blockers. He actually sent them to me from Florida when he was down there visiting.
Aww.
So I know, kind of cute. But actually, I just want to back up a little bit, because one of the things I really wanted to make sure I talked about was that the biohacking world can be very male dominant too. And so that piece of it that, hopefully I bring to Primal Hacker is one of, wait a minute, there's not just one size fits all for all this stuff. Like, we're women, and a lot of times, all these guys get really gadgety, and it's like all the stuff that, for your health is out here, right? It's this new gadget, it's this thing, it's this. And so that's one of the things, like, hopefully I, taught Thaddeus, because we teach each other constantly, is that, wait a minute, no, it starts in here. And that's where the spirituality piece comes into, the biohacking and Primal Hacker, that you can do all this stuff. You can go, buy all this tech, you can wear the shirt, you can have the glasses, but until you start in here, that stuff doesn't even matter, right? Mm-hmm. So and also, our as females, like, our clocks are different. We're cyclical, and we live by the moon, and we change, and our hormones are so different than men, and especially as we age. And I read a book, T.S. Wiley, sex something in hormones, and Sex, Lies, and Hormones. That's what it was. And she talks a lot about, your light environment. And as a female, your hormones, like, you can't test your hormones on just, you like go to the doctor and get your hormones tested. That doesn't matter. If you don't do it on a certain day, twice in 1 month, you will not know your hormone panel at all, because that's not how we work, right? So when I see people in the biohacking world, and they're talking about intermittent fasting, and you need to fast for 16 to 18 hours, I'm like, hey guys, guess what? I tried that, and during my this part of my cycle, that sucked. I was so cranky, that did not work at all. And after my period, I can fast all day long, and I'm totally fine. But this, and so I started experimenting different times of the month, and I'm like, actually, women really, I don't like to say the word but really, women have to be very careful about intermittent fasting and how long you go, because our bodies are to promote life and to keep life going, right? And so everything goes back to our hormones and our cycles. And if your body is like, oh my God, I'm not getting enough food, it's going to create havoc on your hormones and your whole system, your psyche, your emotions, like everything. You're going to be a crazy person. And that's not a one size fits all. Like, intermittent fasting is really healthy to do. Yeah, for males, 16 to 18 hours, females, really not more than 14 hours. Unless you are like super committed to a 24-hour fast, or even a 14-hour fast, and you've got, some minerals on board, or some ketones, or something to help you through to try to trick your body. But we really aren't set up to do a lot of fasting, which is something we don't really think about, right? Unless you're a breatharian, then all that's out the door.
Right, there's that too.
Yeah. So, and I don't know any female breatharians, but I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sure it works just fine. But it's just something that, as a woman in the biohacker world, it's very male dominated. And I hope that, I bring a little bit of a female lighthearted voice to some of that really, tough outside the self points of view. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I love that. I love that. And I love that at your retreats, you bring in shamanism, you bring in meditation, spirituality, breath work, and cultivating, the inside out. And of course, that's how I ended up being at one of your
oh,
your
yeah,
retreats and how we ended up meeting.
right.
So I really do appreciate that. And I think it's kind of the future of biohacking, or maybe there's a new name for it. Maybe it's not even biohacking anymore. Maybe it's
Right.
something else.
Well, I mean, we would say primal hacking, but
Well, of course, yes.
right.
But yeah, and it is, I mean, you can think of it as primal because
Exactly.
before the world of technology, this was
Absolutely.
natural, shamanism and connection to the earth and the elements and all of that was a natural way that humans lived. It didn't even need a name because it was just life, right?
Yeah. And something that's really cool, like living with Thaddeus and seeing his evolution through the biohacking, because he's an influencer in the biohacking world, and he knows a lot of stuff. He knows so much information, just like
Mhm.
numbers that I can't even imagine remembering. And now I hear him talking about, wait a minute, before you guys go do all that stuff, you got to start with the meditation. You have to start, you start inside. And thank you to all the shamans out there that are doing the light work and really, bringing to the surface that importance of that, right? Because without that, like what does any of the other stuff matter outside
Yeah.
yourself, right? And so
Right.
you can get as technical as you want, but I always tease him, I'm like, however sciencey you get, it always is going to go into quantum and then come out the other end to spirit. It doesn't matter,
Right,
right?
right.
I
It's
mean,
so
it's
true. It's so
yeah,
true that that convergence is always going
yeah,
to happen. And
right.
then, one more point that I wanted to make in talking to you is when when I first met you, and then I found out you had an adult son, I was like,
Oh,
wait a minute, how old are you? Because I'm not asking you to answer that, but
yeah.
you clearly have some youth secrets or something. So as I get to know more about what you offer and some of the biohacking things, I know that's part of it, but can you give some tips to particularly to women on staying youthful, because you have
Oh,
such a youthful presence?
oh, well, thank you. That's very sweet, very kind. And I accept your compliment. Thank you. I just listened to Wayne Dyer this morning, and one of the first books he ever wrote was Your Erroneous Zones. And he was talking about self doubt. And this is actually our homeschool this morning, which is so appropriato. That when you look in the mirror, like what do you see, right? And you can go through all your faults and you can go through all things you wish, but you chose this body, you chose to carnate into this body right here right now. And self-love, that's key. That is number one. Look in the mirror and love yourself. And until you can do that, it's probably going to be very hard to love someone else. So your own self-image, your self-esteem, all that stuff, I had to work on that so much. Oh my god, I've done I literally have done so much work on that it makes my head spin sometimes. We all have our own old programming, things that happened to us in the past, and how we deal with them. And it's so interesting. Every time I've gone to a Reiki person or shaman or have done any type of healing, they all go to that solar plexus, self-esteem. That has been my Achilles heel. And working through that, I don't know, like it feels like it's bringing more vitality to me. So again, like I'll just reiterate, like going back inside yourself, right? And really dissecting and figuring out, where is your shadow spots, and what, not that you have to bring up the past, because there's a difference. Like you can go to a therapist and work out your past. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but really, finding out where your blind spots are. I actually like that word.
Mhm.
And if I feel, this way, if I feel jealous in this moment, now I go, wait a minute, that's back down here. why am I feeling that? I'm going to investigate that. So being an investigator into your own self-esteem, I think, is like just absolutely huge. So that was our homeschool lesson today. But also, you know, I mean, I kind of have a little bit of a baby face to begin with. And when I was literally, you guys, when I was 20 years old, people would tease me like in a bullying kind of way. They're like, there's no way that you're 21. They'd be like, there's no way you're 21. Like you're 12. And like I'd be like, what? I mean, I really look like I mean, as a 21-year-old person, that's like insulting, you know, I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't have giant boobs and I might look like a 12-year-old. But then my retort was always, well, I guess if I look like I'm, you know, 12, maybe when I'm 40, I'll look like I'm 20. And that was my mantra. That has been like my mantra my entire life. And so I think that that's part of my programming, and it's just continuing. And then I met Thaddeus and we learned some more of the biohacking stuff. So I do a lot of red light therapy. We drink beautiful spring water. Now I'm drinking plasma water. I was talking to you about that at one point. And that's interesting. I don't really know too much about that because I just started, but it's like this really beautiful, clean ocean water. So, you know, paying attention to your diet and oils in your life. It sounds really funny. Take out all the toxic men with Shayla and oils. That should be like, you know, a blog post or something. Yes. I got to write that down.
Yes, taking notes here.
Toxic men and oils. So Thaddeus did his dissertation on harmful oils. And so he teaches me all the time. And if I ever see the word canola oil in anything, I avoid that like the plague. Like that does not even, like it doesn't even come near my aura. Honestly, or I would never ingest it. And learning about like how oils, how they turn into rancid, how they turn rancid like after ingestion, or they're already rancid on the shelf. And so that was something like I learned from him. And we've been lied to so much about the sun. We've been lied to about all the rancid oils that are on our shelves, and what oils are appropriate, what fats are appropriate, right? And so we do very cyclical eating cycles. And he actually is writing a book. He's almost done with it, The Hibernation Diet. Yep. So it's about eating local and seasonal foods. We're really big into foraging. But I want to go back to the oil piece. So if you consume this rancid oil, let's just say canola oil, and you do go out into the sun, that will actually make your skin look horrible. And when you're young, it doesn't matter, right? But when you're older, you start to see like, oh, and sugar, right? So like those things, and everybody is different. Thaddeus could sit down and eat an entire pan of brownies and it will not phase him. We've done the glucose monitor with him and it doesn't even spike his freaking blood sugar. Like it's crazy. And for me, it'll go, you know, like we're women, right? Like we metabolize stuff so differently. So I noticed in my body too, like if I avoid sugar, my skin looks better. But you know, and I am never afraid of the sun. I love the sun. I feel better when I'm in the sun, and I never ever wear sunscreen. And I've never worn sunscreen like in my youth or anything. I've always just rejected that, and I don't know, my internal, you know, whatever sensory equipment has been very much attuned that there's something to that, right? There's special powers, and there's something. I've always been a beach baby and a sun baby, and the warmth and the feel good, right? Like that of the sun just makes you feel good. Yeah. So you know, that there can't be harm in that. So we've been so misled by, you know, so much that one other thing I wanted to bring up is that even though, you know, like I have all these children, it doesn't mean that I act or want to be an adult. And most of the time, I'm the biggest kid in my house. I will make the biggest mess. I will, you know, like do whatever. And then I'll be like, hey, you guys clean up your mess. And they're like, no, you got to clean up your mess, or, you know, whatever. But as an artist, I've never stopped playing. And I think that's a really, really big part, a crucial part of, oh, I'm an adult now. It doesn't mean you stop playing. You have to keep playing. You keep your right brain and your creative juices flowing. That's prana too, right? Like that is energy flow. And my God, if you stop playing, just like go retire. um, but one thing, like when my kids are out in nature and we're on a hike, I do what the kids do. So if they're gonna go, we're at Perch Lake, whatever, and they're gonna jump over the fence and then they're gonna run down to the water and put their feet in the water, I'm right there with them. I'm not gonna stand up there and be like, oh, I'm an adult, I can't do that or whatever. I'm gonna go jump the fence with them. I've never stopped playing and following what the youth do, right? So keep that youthfulness and keep it around you and keep it living and have fun. We were just in a coaching session the other day, and one of the people we were talking to, they were very rigorous about their diet. I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And I'm like, stop. I'm like, at what point is like getting the healthy diet now stressing you out, right? Like that, no. I was like, go out with your friends and have fun, like trying to eat gross oils, but but loosen up on that. Like this isn't supposed to be so serious. So I'm very lighthearted. I'm always like keeping things light and funny, and hopefully, and that's like how Thaddeus and I, yin yang each other as well. He can be very serious, and then he talks very elevated and intellectual things, and I'm like, get out of here, like that is crap. Let's talk about sunshine, or like let's talk about something that's more fun. So bringing more lightheartedness into your life, and life is supposed to be enjoyable. Meditate more, like have more fun, find friendlier people around you. A long time ago, I got rid of a lot of toxic people in my life, and sometimes that's even family members, right? Like it doesn't have to be, there's no limits to that too. Like if somebody's toxic in your life and their energy is coming at you, no thank you. Like I can love you from over here, right? I have a few friends that I don't talk to anymore because it's not in my energetic growth. And now we're building family and friends. All my friends are family, like they're my family too. They're all my brothers and my sisters, but I keep people close that lift me up. And I think that's really big. And I'll tell you what, my two sons, Jackson and Michelangelo, are walking me down the aisle when I get married next month. And they are literally like two of the most amazing humans on this planet. Now I'm gonna start to cry. But I want them on my sides. They're my people. And yeah, so.
That's so beautiful.
Keep your good people close.
Yeah, for sure. Have uplifting humans around you. Great tips. I loved that. I'm so glad I asked you your youth secrets because I love that conversation.
Oh, good.
We are actually, out of time, and I don't want to leave without sharing your free gift. So you did talk a little bit earlier about the class is called Invisible Energy Class, and just tell us a little bit more about that. And it's you and Thaddeus teaching it together, which I love.
Absolutely. So what we designed for you and for this summit and for anybody who participates, is like a free masterclass, and we recorded a 45-minute segment where so I'm asking him questions in the class and trying to break it down. And actually at one point, I have to bring this up, there's a moth that flies onto the back of my neck and I start screaming in the video. And I'm like, oh my God, because I listened to it afterwards, and all of a sudden I start yelling. I'm like, ah, like hitting the back of my neck.
Is that a technique, like a biohacking technique?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, you know what? We're just going to leave it in there because it's kind of entertaining, actually. But so Thaddeus will go through all the invisible energy and like the beneficial, the negative, and then the things that are around you that could possibly be putting your body, even though so we're very spiritual people, right? Like we're constantly working on lifting up our vibrations and our ascension and our breath work and all that. But if you are completely inundated with Wi-Fi and cellular, microwave radiation around you, your body is still going to be reading that it could be in a sympathetic state. So we bring to light a few, I think there's 3 things that we're like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this, do this, because again, things people don't talk about, right? So it mostly has to do with your EMF environment. So the invisible energy around what could be harming you, what's maybe harming your kids, like that's, and what's in your home. So just something to think about in the biohacker world of the spiritual world, right? Because sometimes the spiritual stuff, like people don't quite get the, the diet and movement and the EMF and the light, but we get all the spiritual stuff. Well, there's more pieces to the puzzle. So we're just kind of, putting another little piece in. So I hope it is very informational, because Thaddeus, you guys, he is just like, he's so good at giving you, he reads through the studies actually in the class with Shayla. And you watch it all the way through the end if you can get past my moth nonsense.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I have the link, and I just got it yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I will definitely be watching that. And thank you for providing that, and thank you for sharing so much with everybody. And you're just a wealth of information. I feel like we just scratched the surface, and there's so much more, but we'll have to do more of these going forward, and share more, because it's so much. And between you and Thaddeus, you just bring such a fun dynamic and so much interesting information. And there is a wealth of information on primalhacker.com. So everyone, make sure you check that out and get the free class that they're offering. And then also on the Primal Hacker site, a lot of the products that you mentioned, I'm sure are available there or through the site. They'll give you links and hook you up. So
that's right. And we're also giving your people, anybody who's connected with the summit and connected to you with Shayla, we want to make sure we have a discount code. So if you go on the site, these are the Faraday cages that you can put your cell phones in. So these are really good for privacy and not tracking.
Yeah, say a little bit more about that, because for someone that has no idea what you're talking about, like, what is that? It's a pouch.
Like and usually that's how I am with Thaddeus. I'm like, break that down. Nobody knows what you're talking about. So this is a Faraday pouch, and it says Primal Hacker on it, but it's just like a silky little pouch. But the inside is a silver lining. So this is all made out of silver thread, and so it's called a Faraday cage. And you can take your cell phone. Mine's on airplane, by the way. People lament all the time, like, never get a hold of you. My phone is always on airplane, because honestly, you guys, like, you don't even want to touch these things when they're out of airplane mode. We always use speakerphone or something. So you can put your phone inside this Faraday cage and then put it in your pocket or in your purse. And especially if you don't want anybody to track where you're going, this is a perfect device for that. Because even if your phone, and you'll learn this in the masterclass, but even if your phone is turned off with Shayla, the GPS is still tracking.
Ooh.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're just
even like, on airplane mode too then.
Oh yeah, and like if you power it down, it's still tracking. Yeah, it'll still track you. So this will protect you from that. And so like the cool thing about our website too, you guys, so we do sell like these blue blockers that I showed before. And then we have air tube ear pods that they don't put the radiation from your phone up into your ear. They stop it because it's got an air pocket in between. All of our products, because we have such a big family, we're like, actually, let me show you. So these are one brand of blue blockers. They're about $150 online. They're super expensive. Ours are less than $50 because we cannot afford $150 pairs of blue blockers for every kid, right? Like that's crazy. And so we really just wanted to bring all these products to people in the biohacker world. Things get really pricey. And that's not in our wheelhouse. And these are the air tubes I was talking about. My daughter just brought them in.
Yeah.
So that it's a safer way to talk on your phone, because you never want to talk with it up to your head. So all of our products are family friendly. They're student friendly. Like we honestly, like we barely make any money. We make enough to buy more products, because we just want to share more information. And like our whole program is about education and helping more people. Like that's it, right? And this is what we can contribute. And it takes we have to do shipments every day, and it's a lot of work for not really getting paid with it. But we get perks with it. I have I think I don't know 9 pairs of blue blockers in my little cache now. But it's like kind of a little collection going. But anyway, that's primalhacker.com, and it's something we really want to share with more people. So.
Yeah. And I love it. I want so many more of your products. So kind of one by one, but there's so much more on there, I know, than you even mentioned. And I love that you guys offer this. And the cool thing about it is it's all in one place. And you guys have done so much research, Thaddeus in particular. I know he's been doing this a while, and I know that you would not have something on your site if it hadn't been researched by you guys, and if you hadn't done your homework. So I always trust whatever you present to be you're well informed, and you wouldn't have it there if it wasn't a good thing.
Well, yep. And so I will piggyback on that. I call that Thaddeus approved, and that's right. And that's the coolest thing about Thaddeus. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, we don't have anything on our store that we don't use ourselves. We don't promote any products that we don't use ourselves. And if we don't like something, we're not going to be like, oh, you should do this. No. That's not how we do it. And a lot of people, in the biohacking world, they trust him. And because he has done his research, he's done TED Talks, he's, and he's such a humble, good human. And that's why he came into my life, is I can only be around people that are really sincere. And I think that really comes through with him too, is that he's not telling anybody to do anything that's not going to be beneficial to them and their home.
Yeah, I really love that so much. And I know that the two of you too, I mentioned it before, but just really quick, can you tell about, you do some coaching. Now, when you coach people, is that to help them get the EMFs out of their life? Is it for biohacking? Is it for personal relationships? What kind of coaching do you do? Or is it a mix of all of that?
Well, it's really a mixed bag, and it's really what people are looking for. So sometimes we'll have, somebody who's looking to lose weight. Sometimes we'll have somebody who's really looking to get advice from Thaddeus on how am I going to gain more weight? How am I going to put on more muscle mass? And how can I get more out of my workout? And give me some more advice on my light environment. What can I do in my bedroom to make my sleeping environment better? And then, so I listen in to all that stuff. And then I go, well, wait a minute, let's drill down into why this thing, what's the root cause of, this thing, what's the emotional component? So I kind of come in with all the yin left side stuff. And he really is the protocol. This is the yang, this is the exterior stuff. So we go from if people have any questions about anything in their life, right? Whether it comes to light environment, how you could supplement with red lights, what to do, right? If I wasn't with Thaddeus, I wouldn't know what to do with the red light, and who do you trust? And then how do you supplement with red light? And you can actually be too close to the red light, Washayla, and it can be detrimental if you stay too long. And I was like, I didn't know that after meeting Thaddeus. I was like, holy crap. I didn't know I was 40 minutes in front of this light, and that last 10 minutes was actually doing more damage. That is something so you really got to pay attention when you're dealing with some of these things, right? Because they can be really intense. So light environment, EMF environment, where's your router? Where's your, what's happening with your cell phone? Are you putting your cell phone in your pocket? My 17-year-old was putting his cell phone in his pocket, and he kept getting this rash on his leg. And it was a hot, high V rash for a long time. I started dating Thaddeus, and he was told me about that. We got the phone out of his pocket. He's never had a rash again. It is so it's just like, oh, duh, like what? And then so we got light environment, EMF environment. We go through your nutrition. What do you eat during the day? Like, how does it make you feel? Like the emotional components of it. We go through your movement. Are you getting outside? Are you grounding? Are you getting sunlight? Are you getting morning light? So we go through all that stuff and really compile a formulations, like what your goals are. And then here's our recommendation. And then you get some follow-up emails with it as well. So, and you can get as much or a little bit as you want, but I think it's really cool because like, I really come in from the side of like, what's your morning routine? What's your meditation? You know, how much are you meditating? And then I go, well, wait, you say that, but like, how much are you really meditating? Right? Like, you need to be totally honest and looking at yourself inside out and being completely vulnerable if that's comfortable for you. And a lot of people are sometimes at that tipping point and they're like, you know what, here it is. I'm going to be so vulnerable with you right now. I've got this dialed in. I've got my nutrition dialed in. I absolutely have no idea about this thing. Can you just shed some light on it? Right. So that's really what so we really play off each other. And then if Thaddeus misses something, I'll be like, you know what, like that, let's go back to that because there's something there. And usually it's like, well, I was gonna say, and then it's like, oh, there's some family trauma, right? Like, let's go deal with that. How are you gonna deal with it? Go get a massage. Go try to find a Reiki master in your town, or that can help you release some of that trauma or hypnosis or something. So,
or ascension training.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's been such a beautiful relationship with you and how we've been able to grow and learn from each other. I think it's just been, I love when I watch your videos and you're like, get outside in the sunshine. I'm like, ooh, Thaddeus taught her that.
Yes, he did. I started well, you know what? I learned to sun gaze way back in my 20s when I traveled with the shaman, and then I didn't do it. I mean, I did it then, but I hadn't done it in many, 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 many years. And when I did the interview with Thaddeus, which I will link to this, I'm gonna include the link to that, just so people can go watch it because it's such a good one. And I started sun gazing again after that, and I now I just absolutely don't. I mean, I can't imagine not doing it.
I know, right?
So and the sun comes up every day. Yes, so he like really helped me remember how important that is and to start again. So I'm very grateful.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, there's a lot of big magic in that.
Big time. Oh, so big. So yeah, I was going to say it's really like mind, body, soul wellness recipe for life. It's really powerful what you guys do. So I love the balance and the way that you two are so different, but you work so well together, and you just bring that male, female, masculine, feminine, yin yang balance, and and then just expand each other and expand the people around you.
Well, and that's where you come in, right? Like, you're teaching us that light expansion as well. And it's so fun to see it emanate around us. We went into a wellness center about 2 weeks ago to do a float tank together. That's like our date night is float tank. We're such dorks. And I want to interview, sorry, teenagers. So this woman, I went in and I came out early, and I was talking to the receptionist, and I was like, chit-chatting with her a little bit, and she goes, what do you two do? And I was like, what kind of question is that? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do we do? She's like, I don't know. She's like, there's something emitting from you, both of you, and some really cool energy. And I was like, oh, really? And she goes, even the lady that walked past you in the lobby, she's like, who are those people? Like, there's some light coming out of them. And I was like, oh, so it's really fun when you get to go out in public and people like feel and notice that, right? We're like, oh, we didn't, because you don't know.
Light workers. You are light workers.
I know. But it's so fun to be working with you. And every morning we do our shamanic breath. And if we don't get to it in the morning, we do it in the afternoon. And sometimes with our babies. And Michelangelo, my 16-year-old's really like digging that. He's like, that is very powerful. We had our 9-year-old doing it.
Wow.
They were like, we were so tingly. But can you imagine starting that at that age, or like just
Yeah.
knowing, right? Like it's
Amazing.
just so cool.
I
So
love
thank you
it.
for all the work you do with Shayla. I mean, it's been life changing for us. So
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you too. Oh, I appreciate you so much. I've loved every minute of this conversation. And
hey,
for, yes, for everyone watching, be sure you grab the free gift. I'll have the link, and we'll have, I should say the gifts, because you also have the link to the discount code. Thank you
right?
for that. Thank you for
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
generosity. And then we also have the Facebook page. So be sure and jump in the Facebook page, and I'll invite Heidi slash tomorrow and Thaddeus to come in and answer questions. I know that some
Sure.
people have questions that I don't know how to answer, and you can always go to them. But if you want to just chime in on the Facebook page and say what you got out of this and what you learned, or what what you took from it, please jump in there, and then I'll invite the Primal Hackers to come in and share, and maybe we can get you on a live in there too.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
great. Anytime.
yeah, so with that, I'm gonna say just thank you everyone for watching. We are one big family of light ascending together. We don't have to do it alone. We are community, and we are all connected. So go knowing that, and my heart is just so full of love for all of you. Namaste.
Namaste.